Hi, Jenny here. Today, as autumn kicks in, we're going to talk about something we should have talked about in the beginning of the summer, picnic plates, but also takeaway coffee cups like this one that I've collected, for example. Picnic cups, a picnic plate that I've cut in half because I'm doing a test, and an old picnic plate and so on. And the reason for this is that all of this disposable picnic stuff is coated in plastic, and it does your head in because it looks, people think that it's compostable, right? And it's kind of like paper and it can go back to nature. But the thing is, it's really full of plastic. How do you think that these are waterproof? You know, it's because there's a plastic liner inside every cup. There's a plastic liner on this plate. And what happens when you compost that is that it goes into the soil. The paper will all do its thing, you know, convert the soil, no worries. But the plastic will stay in the soil forever. And it will be this thin, slimy plastic film that's lying in your plastic, and it will ultimately break down into microplastic and disappear, except that it doesn't disappear. So what I'm doing here in my little home cooking lab is I have a pot of hot water, and I put in half of that blue plate that you could see just before. And I just did this a few minutes ago because I want to see how long it takes for that plastic to separate. So this is the other half of this plate, right? I cut it off and put it in water. And what you can see here, it's quite interesting, is that the paper's starting to divide as it should. There's different layers of the paper, and it separates like this. And this is untreated paper. It will compost really quickly. This blue and white stuff is printed, and it will take longer, but no big deal. But on the surface of this is a really thin film of plastic, and that's where your problems start. Now, if I leave this for another half hour or so, this plastic is going to break away. But what you can see now is that when you scrape this here, you end up with, see this transparent part, that's the plastic, right? I can scrape off the paper and the plastic is left. It's really thin. This is a disaster. So maybe we don't have so many picnics, but these takeaway coffee cups are really taking so much space in landfill and everywhere else, and they are not compostable. There are some types of picnic stuff you can buy in some supermarkets. They're a little bit more expensive and they are compostable, but make sure you compost them in that case, because if they just go to landfill, you know, what's the difference? It's just, yes, it's organic material, but it's still turning into methane like everything else. So think twice, and this is where we get back to the discussion about take your own cup, etc. But there is plastic on the inside of every one of these. They will not break down in nature. 90% of it will disappear, it's paper. But that thin film of plastic, like we saw on my experiment here, will still be there. And this is a really cool thing you could do with your kids. Just get some different types of stuff, you know, tea bags, paper plates, serviettes, like this, napkins, paper napkins, which are compostable, by the way, and just soak them and see what happens, and talk about what happens with microplastic, because it's really important that your kids understand this and think twice about the consequences of everything that we do.